This is the original esport racing game. This is iRacing.
Good evening, race fans, and welcome to Podium Esports coverage of Round 4 of the Porsche Club of America Sim Racing Series from Watkins, Glen International in Watkins, Glen, New York. Round 4 of Series 3, this year the PCA SRS here on tap feed this evening. I am the voice of Podium Esports, James Mike, alongside Taylor Burris, Michael Polisek, and as always, Cisco Sky Musa, pumping all of the buttons and making sure that we look far, far better than we sound. Taylor Burris, I turn to you first because we shift gears a little bit. Last week it was Circuit of the Americas, which is a lot of long apex corners, especially on the West Course that we ran last Friday night, rather. A lot of long apex corners, a lot of long corners, period. You do not get that here at Watkins Glen, especially on the short layout that we're running, which is the same one that the NASCAR Cup Series uses here. It is fast, it is quick, it is speed, and more speed. And if you didn't like speed, we added a little bit more speed on top of it, just to make sure that you got a proper sense of speed, because everybody likes speed, right, Taylor?
Of course, everybody loves speed. I haven't met a person who doesn't like speed, especially when it comes to here at Watkins Glen International. This track is nothing but flat out, especially for these Porsche Cup cars. They will be definitely testing the pedal here and also their brake pedal just a little bit, especially when we see these drivers going down into turn 1, the 90, probably one of the most difficult corners that these drivers will face, because they'll be facing speeds pushing close to 145 to 150 mile an hour down some of these straightaways before having to hit the brakes pretty hard to try to make it through the corner. And also the S is a danger zone, and not a lot of areas to hide when there is an incident going up the S's. So all I gotta say is watch out come lap 1.
And Michael Polisek, we bring you in. You've had plenty of experience running this track in the 911 GT3 Cup car, and you ran this track when Series 1 of the PCA SRS visited here back in March of this year. So you got firsthand experience racing this car, and especially racing down into turn 1 with traffic. Just talk about how treacherous that is from a driver's perspective.
Well, especially here at Watkins Glen, turn 1 is so important to get right, because with the way these cars are set up, they're incredibly loose, so you have to be very careful on the throttle. And as well as these cars also don't have a huge amount of downforce, so you have to be very careful when you brake, because you can overshoot the corner. You can't also brake too early because the other guys around can just drive around you. And also through the S's, you can go too wide, but you have to have full trust in your competitors not to run each other off the road. And because of how unwieldy these cars can be at the S's, it's really scary. But once you sorted yourself out and get back into line, you're probably going to be fine. But the start is really what matters, because positions are so hard to gain and so easy to lose here at the treacherous Watkins Glen.
All battle points all around. And for tonight's pre-race interview, as we try to do as much as we can, we bring in Carlos Lopez, who is both a competitor out of the Maverick region of the PCA here in the Porsche Club of America Sim Racing Series, but also one of the main people behind AL Racing Simulators. So first, Carlos, just talk about your involvement with the PCA and how you got started in PCA Sim Racing.
Well, obviously we build simulators, and it's very exciting to be part of the PCA. And I used to join different leagues, and it was an opportunity to join the PCA Sim Racing series, and I'm having fun.
Sounds like You've had a lot of fun so far over the course of the year. This is not the first series of the PCA SRS you've run in, but uh, you're big behind AL Racing Simulators. You're one of the main people behind that operation. So tell us a little bit about what AL Racing Simulators does and how it ties into the PCA SRS.
Well, we build simulators here in the DFW area, and we also lease them for events. We go to different events, from birthday parties all the way to corporate events, holiday parties, and stuff like that. And we try to incorporate the latest and the greatest of as far as devices to our simulators, and we also build our PCs. They're custom built, depending on the price point.
So then this was just a sort of happy marriage of two things that you're already pretty well invested in, both the building of sims with AL Racing Simulators and then racing in the PCA SRS in a sim with the Porsche Club of America that you're already a part of. How cool is it to sort of stand right at the intersection of two things that mean so much to you?
Well, everything started obviously having me my own simulator and having friends looking at it and asking me to build one for them and build for another one and build another one, and suddenly became a business, and we're doing really good. And I'm a big Porsche fan, so it's very exciting to be part of the PCA sim racing world.
And the Hard Charger Award, how proud of you to be able to get AL Simulator's name on that.
Honestly, it's an honor to be part of it and to give it away to the hard charger driver, and hopefully we'll do more.
Well, Carlos, we thank you so much for your time. Wish you best of luck this evening, and we'll keep an eye out for you in that number 18 car.
Yes, sir.
Carlos Lopez, competitor in this PCA SRS out of the Maverick region, and also one of the heads of AL Racing Simulators. And if you haven't seen what they do, take a look at the video that we've got for you, because it'll give you a good sense of what they're up to on a regular basis. So, if you want to go find out more about AL Racing Simulators, head on to alsimulators.com and alracingsims.com and find out more about all of the craziness that happens there. And especially if you find yourself in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex in particular, they can do a lot of good for your rig. They can do a lot of good for your speed in sim as well. We are, maybe about 15 seconds from qualifying. We'll take a look at where we are in the world as we turn to our lovely, gigantic, big green and blue earth on our map here. And you'll find Watkins Glen in the Finger Lakes region of New York, not terribly far away from the southern border of the state that joins up with Pennsylvania, but still a great place to go hide away in the summer. The temperatures aren't necessarily all that warm, and certainly gives you a lot of room to stretch out, relax in the warmer months of the year, and just really enjoy a lot of great racing that comes through here between NASCAR and the IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship. So many good cars, so many good races that come through this part of the country that time of year. At this point, it is time to take a look at our starting grid for tonight's race in the Porsche Club of America Sim Racing Series, Series 3, Round 4. Choose John Cook. Put down a qualifying time of 1 minute and 11.893 seconds to take the spot over Gresham Wagner out of the First Settlers region. James Hugh will start from P3. Home game for him. He's a Hudson Champlain region member of the PCA. Christopher Pies will roll off to the 4th position. 5th belongs to the 913 of Leif Peterson. Matthew Kigus out of the Carolina region will start from 6th this evening. William Anderson of the 41 begins tonight from 7th. 8th is where you'll find the number 8 of Chris Walsh. Convenient that. Liam Redzitis, one of the Upper Canada region members of the PCA, will start from 9th. And Trey Drawhorn is your fastest qualifier out of the rookie class. He will start tonight's race from the 10th position.
Starting in 11th position will be another rookie contender, Colin Thomas in the number 19. Alongside him in the 07 will be William Yu. Starting in 13th will be Charles Yao. Alongside him will be Joseph Stiffel in 14th. Carlos Lopez, we just got done interviewing him. He's going to be rolling off from the 15th position. Alongside him will be Lynn Wilson in 16th. Igor Soiker will be starting in the 17th position alongside Dewey Kang in 18th, with Stephen Pruden in 19th and Patrick Gill rounding out your top 20.
Jonathan Waltman will be starting in P21, with Jacob Hume lining up in P22. Angel Elsom will be starting in P23, with Michael Evans starting P24. Matthew Mitchell will be starting in P25, with Jonathan Hume lining up alongside him in 26. Bruce Robinson will be starting in 27th, with Michael Nyden starting in 28th. Jonathan Patterson will be starting in 29th, with R.E. Moore Jr. starting in P30. Mark Hoffritz will be starting in 31st, with Donald Binkley starting 32nd. Faisal Yamin will be starting in 33rd, with James Bernard starting in 34th, and rounding out your 35-car field is Alex Hellier.
That's your starting grid for tonight's Porsche Club of America Sim Racing Series event from Watkins, Glen. We take a look at the track facts. This is the short course. Some might know it better as the Cup layout. It is the layout that the NASCAR Cup Series uses when they come here each and every August. It measures 454 miles, 3.949 kilometers in distance. There are officially 11 turns as per the map. We're running in the afternoon here. It is iRacing Day, May 15th, 2019, and right around 5:30 p.m. local time. Currently, we're looking at partly cloudy weather. Temperature of 77 degrees Fahrenheit. Track temps all the way up at 97 degrees Fahrenheit, though. They should cool off just a little bit as we progress through this next hour of racing, but not all that much. Still bright sunlight, still Maytime and springtime here in Sim and Watkins Glen, so it's not going to cool off all that much. Drivers will have to be wary of the slippery track. Also of note, humidity sitting at 57% if you are so curious and so inclined. We'll race for 1 hour here tonight and knock out our penultimate hour of this series. One race after this one to come down at Road Atlanta to close out the season next Friday night. We'll tell you more about that as we progress through tonight's broadcast. But at this point, we're glad to have you with us here on the iRacing Esports Network as Podium Esports brings you the 4th round of 5 in Series 3. The 2019 Porsche Club of America Sim Racing Series. John Koch will lead the field to green. The pace car will pull off momentarily, make that interesting turn onto pit road. It sort of blends in with the racing line, does the pit entrance here at Watkins Glen. But the pace car pulls off. We'll wait to see how they make their way into turn 1 as the green flag comes out. And we are underway with racing at Watkins Glen, and it's a good start for Koch. He will jump ahead of Wagner by a little bit. Meanwhile, look at Chris Pies come out and slide way, way wide in the corner. Now here comes Matthew Kigus underneath and Leif Peterson. So not the greatest of starts for Pies. Meanwhile, though, looks like everybody will make it through turn 1 clean as they climb up the hill and head through the S's for the first time.
So far, no major action going on. It's still going to be single file except for Christopher Pies, who actually had a little bit of issue getting into the back bumper of Gresham Wagner going into the 90. Now they're coming down the back straight before they hit the bus stop chicane. Let's see who will be the first one to break right now, as there's still Kikis goes a little bit wide right there, but is able to recover as the 41 look to the inside now as they go down into the carousel.
So Kikis there trying to find his way past the 6 of Chris Pies. Meanwhile, everybody's slipping back a little bit further back as they come down the second straightaway. Once you clear the long back straightaway and you make your way past the inner loop, you end up in a pretty good place to blitz it all the way down into turn 11 as we slide our attention to Charlie Yao in the number 29 machine, currently running in the 10th position.
That was an excellent start by everyone. Everybody managing to survive lap 1, which is probably one of the most dangerous lap 1s in all of racing. interesting as we're going to be sliding back to the 003 of Joseph Stiffel. And it looks like that he is currently defending from, that is Lynn Wilson right now. He goes pretty wide, and that's going to allow Lynn Wilson to get alongside, but Wilson's just going to have to back off a tiny bit, playing the safe game here, which is probably a wise idea right now because these cars are incredibly challenging to drive. These cars are definitely not for the rookie driver. They're loose pretty much everywhere, and especially at the S's, the rear end just kind of has a mind of its own. And really, you just have to always be on top of the car. Otherwise, you might find yourself in the wall.
Rear-wheel drive cars here with a lot of power in those rear tires and a throttle that you have to mind. You cannot just jump into it with these things or you will spin yourself out on corner exit every time. But if you can manage those power curves and those power bands on corner exit, there is plenty of speed to be had in these 911 GT3 Cup cars. So in that sense, I think Michael's very right. Definitely not for the faint of heart, but once you find a way around a track with these cars and you can master it very well, you can absolutely blitz around places like this in particular. As Charlie Young comes to pit road, looks like he had a little bit of damage to the right.
Trouble in the 90 right now. Leif Peterson went off course. We got spun as now he is stuck in one of the barriers as he's also waiting for the rest of the field to go by. But this is going to be detrimental for his run right now as he's still waiting to get cleared and able to rejoin the track.
Should take a look at your replay. Pretty simple incident for Peterson. He just locked up the brakes coming into turn one. That's not the first time I think we'll see that. And only now is he back on the racing surface and ready to go. But he'll drop all the way to 30 seconds after starting P5 this evening. So a tremendous drop off for Leif Peterson. And he has a very, very big mountain to climb throughout the rest of this race. But a very simple error, but I don't think that's going to be the last time we see that happen just because, as we talked about right at the top of the broadcast, Michael, turn one is so treacherous.
Oh, and it's not just turn one. That's a trouble spot, I think, for a lot of drivers. When I drove this car at this track, I could definitely think of many, many more spots where things can go wrong. The exit of turn one especially, because these cars have so much power going through the rear wheels, it's very easy to spin them up, get loose, and have issues. But John Koch, Gresham Wagner, and James Hughes all currently in a pack of three, pretty spread out right now. I think that all of them just want to bide their time right now. And again, as we've seen over the course of this season, they just want to bide their time, chill out, and just try and survive until the pit stop phase, and then they can start fighting after that. But also the entry to the bus stop can also be a big problem if you have your brake bias set incorrectly. If you have it set too far forward, you're going to lock the front tire and lose all steering. If you set it too far back, you're going to lock a rear tire and spin. And like what Leif Peterson did of just getting things wrong under braking, that's something that happens a lot with these cars because you have no downforce, no ABS, nothing to help you slow this car down. So it's going to be a real challenge for these drivers to survive the full hour without making a mistake. And in order to win this race, that's what you got to do.
If anything, not making mistakes would be more important than some of the other things. As we turn to Bruce Robinson in the 386 machine, currently in a pretty solid battle with Jonathan Schum and Michael Nyden on either side of that number 386. As Schum, Robinson, and Nyden work their way through turns 10 and 11 here at Watkins, going back towards the front straightaway.
Yeah, watching these drivers right now, they're having a great battle as they come out of the final corner down the front straightaway. Michael Nyden is a couple of car lanes back from Bruce Robinson, who has closed that gap to Jonathan Schum as they go down into turn one, the 90, as the brakes hard onto the braking zone area, being careful not to get too much power to those wheels in order to spin the car out. We've already saw a couple of more cars already make some mistakes where they put too much power down onto those cars and easily spin their cars out, but they were able to get a nice smooth exit off there. Now coming out of the S's down the back straightaway, this is the moment where you need to try to get a good run out of the S's to try to see if it can propel you to get side by side and complete a pass before going down into the bus stop.
Really, it's almost turn one that you have to nail the exit out of because you are effectively on the throttle all the way from the exit of turn one to the bus stop at Watkins Glen. You lift a little bit coming out to the S's, and you can gain a little bit of time if you get your exit out of the S's right, but you gain so much more speed in that stretch from the exit of turn one to the beginning of the S's that it makes that portion of the track far, far more critical, far, far more important to nail.
Oh, and it's also not just turn one, as I said before. you also got to nail the S's, because there's a curb on the inside of the first S that you got to hit, and you got to hit it pretty hard in order to have the car just kind of stick on that. And if you end up offline for the second part of the S, you might find yourself in the wall, and that is going to cause a lot of issues if you don't get out of the car immediately, because there's very little room to maneuver there, and there's very little room for error. You can take it flat, but if you're offline at all, you're going to lose a huge amount of time, or worse, you're going to get a lot of damage from it, as we're seeing now with Dewey Kang and Lynn Wilson right now. Both of them are about 0.3 apart, and Kang's been staring at the rear bumper of that orange Porsche of Lynn Wilson, so it's going to be interesting to see what he's going to do in order to close that gap right now.
So we watched and see there are a lot of good battles all the way around the racetrack, and John Cook hasn't really been able to stretch out the lead too much from Wagner or James Heath. No surprise that the New Yorker in third, the Hudson-Champlain region driver, is the one who is holding down that final podium spot. He was strong here in March when we visited with the Porsche Club.
Watching James Hughes right now, he's having a great run. He actually ran the fastest lap that time by with a 1:11.70 compared to the rest of the field. So he's doing excellent work right now as he's closing on that gap of Gresham.
As the gap to Wagner continues to fade just a little bit here, as Wagner is trying his best he can to run down Cook, but in these early stages, not too much of a concern, I think, to see if you're going to be able to run down somebody with outright speed all over the place. You got plenty of time to work it out. The better battle, to be honest, amongst the top five, slide a little bit further back to fourth. Chris Pines and Matthew Kikish within maybe down 3 car lengths of one another. Liam Radzitis into the 13, also part of this battle. He currently runs in the 6th position.
As long as you stay in the draft of the car in front of you, you're not out of the battle, especially at a track as quick as this. And if you fall about maybe 1.1 seconds behind the car in front, that's pretty much you out of that battle, unless you're able to claw that gap back, because you get so much speed from the draft here, and especially because these cars are not the most aerodynamic cars in the world. Drafting matters a huge amount. We've seen at Daytona Series 1 where you had to be in second place coming out of the bus stop on the last lap in order to win, and it was obviously going to be a photo finish at Daytona, but here you really need to stay in the draft in order to keep up with your opponents. And as Liam Radzitis right now is currently staring down the back of Matthew Kikas, he wants that position, but we're going to see how this battle is going to shape over the course of the hour, as we're going to be going a bit up the field to Matthew Kikas right now. He's closed the gap slightly through the bus stop there. Is Chris Pye going to get a better run out of the carousel? He is slightly, but Kikas is now almost within striking distance, so we're going to see a move from Matthew Kikas at some point soon.
Have a hunch it might be within the next few laps, depending on where Kikas can hit his marks. Makes me wonder if he might try and set something up in turn 1. Also of note, James Bernard and Carlos Lopez have come down pit road for service, and we'll give a little shout out to the, I don't know if we can make it a hashtag, but the Trey Love, Trey Drawhorn with plenty of love in chat, and Drawhorn currently holding down that final spot in the top 10. He's about 2.5 seconds off of Colin Thomas, your rookie class leader in this race. Thomas currently running in the 8th position on track. So we'll keep an eye on the 395 and the 19. Those two are the fastest rookies at this point. Jonathan Waltman runs 3rd in the rookie class as it stands. He currently sits in the 14th position.
Still watching that battle for 4th position, as Matthew Kikas had not the greatest exit out of the bus stop. This game's Liam Radzitis the opportunity to take a peek to the outside before they get to the carousel, but Kikas was able to recover nicely through the carousel and able to pull the gap as they now come down into the couple of final corners. It's been a close battle between these 3 drivers of Pies, Kikas, and Radzitis.
Yeah, really, really good stuff between Pies, Kikas, Radzitis. All 3 of them within the few nose to tail pits here, but as you noted, Radzitis now with the opportunity to gain on Kikas, who has not had the greatest of laps here, so we complete lap 9 at Watkins Glen. We're about 10 minutes into tonight's race, and then Kikas got a really good run coming out of 1 to stretch out the gap significantly to Rosita's, and I think that should give him enough room to cover coming up the hill. Shouldn't have to worry about any challenges coming until we get to the bus stop, perhaps.
Absolutely. And also, passes here at Watkins Glen are not as easy as they look. Because this is such a momentum-based track, you can actually go around the outside of someone. So if somebody slips up your inside a little bit, especially at turn 1 or the last couple of corners, it's not the end of the world because they're taking a tighter arc as we see Matthew Kikis get really close to the rear bumper of Chris Pies there. But as I was saying before, you could let someone go on the inside of turn 1, but you could also drive around the outside of them because you'll have the easier time getting the power down because the guy on the inside is going to be taking a tighter arc. So they're going to have a much harder time getting that power down, especially because they're going to be going slower. So it's probably not going to be very surprising to see a lot of people go side by side for almost the entire lap to make moves work.
One of those things where in theory you're right, but especially coming out of 1 into the S's, the track narrows up so much that you can try and run to the outside for a little bit, but if you try and take advantage of that room a little bit too much, you end up in the fence and you end up just bidding it right there at the entrance to the S's. I think of David Rudiman and company in particular a few years ago when the Cup Series came here and they all decided to funnel right into that exit of turn 1 and ended up blocking the whole racetrack with the wreck coming up the S's. If you run side by side and don't leave enough room, that's the kind of thing that can happen, and that's something drivers need to be mindful of as Kikas tried to push the issue through the bus stop, but instead backed himself right up into the clutches of Liam Rosita's, who may have a run coming out of the corner. And then right behind all of them, we've got one more car there too. I think that might be Lee Peterson, a lap down machine, currently scored in the 30th position.
Yeah, unfortunate for Leif Peterson. He had a tough time with that incident. So he's trying to recover, but is already a lap down. So he has to pull a little bit of different strategy call to see if he can find a way to at least break back onto the lead lap. But here comes Liam Rositas. He's got a good little draft coming out of the final corner. Let's see if he tries to take a peek into the 90. Doesn't quite make it work. He has to decide to follow single file through the 90 as they come out of there. He gets a good run, though. This could be the critical for him as they climb up the S's. Will Rositas try to utilize the slipstream to see if he can make it work? As you see Kikas get a little bit loose right there hitting that curb, while Rositas gets a great run. He's going to take a peek to the outside as they come out of the S's down the back straightaway right now. It is going to be side by side as they make the run to the bus stop chicane. Who will be the first one to break? Here they come into the braking zone. Rositas breaks late, tries to cut off Matthew Kikas. Both of them make contact. That will give the position over to Liam Rositas.
Rositas getting the pass on the outside, just like you said, Michael Polisek. So, I don't know, maybe we need to go dig and see if you've got a few extra crystal balls for sale, because it seems like yours is working quite fine up to this point. But Rositas now with a little bit of damage to the right side of the number 13 machine after that contact with Matthew Kikas, but he also has the position. Rositas now in the top 5.
Well, that was a very well executed move there from Rositas. Very gutsy as well to make a move into the chicane, but good on him to make it work. And he is now in P5, and he has plenty of clean track in front of him. But I wouldn't be surprised if Kikas wants revenge for that, if he wants to maybe make a move on Rositas again, because I know that Matthew Kikas probably isn't happy about losing that position to Liam Rositas right now. But here's the thing. They can battle all they want, but when they're going side by side like that, they're losing time to each other. So I wonder if it might be best to pit early if you're going to be stuck behind a car that you're either equal pace or slightly faster than, and run in clean air for as long as you can, and maybe you'll be able to jump them in the pits.
Also of note here, Colin Thomas and William Anderson made contact on that last lap coming out of turn 9, the carousel, and Thomas spun around and was stuck there on the exit of the corner for just a little bit. So now Trey Drawhorn is your leader in the rookie class, ahead of Jonathan Waltman, and Thomas has slid all the way back into the 18th position.
Yeah, watching the replay on that, there was kind of been a contact between him and Anderson through the carousel, as both of them, as we saw Thomas go a little bit off course. Anderson tried to capitalize on Thomas' mistake, but both of them made contact as they were coming out of the carousel, and Anderson did get the worst of it, hitting one of the tire barriers pretty hard. That could probably put him out of the race after that.
You take a look at the replay and we'll show you what happened here. Just the difference of 2 lines through the carousel more than anything else. You had Thomas sort of running that tighter apex, and Anderson was trying to bow out of the corner, and it sort of crossed paths on corner exit and ended up in trouble.
Unfortunately, that's what happens in racing sometimes. Sometimes you just read the other driver wrong, and things like that happen. As we're going to be going to the battle between the 07 and the 395 of Trey Drawhorn and William Yu. Trey Drawhorn right now, he should be feeling pretty pleased about himself. Currently in the top 10, rookie class leader. He's doing everything he needs to do to secure the rookie class win right now. But I'm pretty sure he wants more. He probably wants to chase down the number 07 of William Yu. And right now, he's staying in the draft. He's doing everything he needs to do. He just needs to make that 07 probably crack under pressure or make a very daring move, either into turn 1, the bus stop. Pretty much anywhere you can initiate a move around here. It's just getting it done is the problem.
And being able to get off the corner with the momentum that you need to make the pass, especially coming out of 1 and especially coming out of the carousel. Those 2 corners in particular, if you end up side by side with someone, you've got to carry speed out of both of them to have any sort of chance at completing the pass.
But again, nothing is certain in this series. We've seen people with potential wins locked up, and then they just make one error, one slight mistake, one slight miscommunication with a lapped car, a car they're racing in, and that's their race over. So again, these cars are not easy to drive for an hour straight, and you need to have full confidence in yourself and the car to do what you want it to do for that full hour. And if you make any mistake, just getting a wheel on the grass, locking a tire that you didn't need to, making contact with another car that you probably could have avoided. Unfortunately, all of these things will put an end to your race. So these drivers are showing tremendous bravery being out here today in these very challenging to drive cars.
Also of note, race control is deemed Colin Thomas at fault for the incident between Thomas and William Anderson. So he has come down pit road to serve a pass-through penalty, and now is all the way back in the 25th position. So lots of issues here. Also of note, since we're speaking of the rookie class, wanted to see what he was up to, but Trey Drawhorn in for his first pit stop of the evening, and with 17 laps on those tires, we can call that a routine, regularly scheduled pit stop. Fuel window is about 18, 19 laps here, so should see a lot of pit stops momentarily. And before we get to everything else in tonight's race, we'll remind you that the setups for tonight's Porsche Club of America Sim Racing Series event are graciously provided by Tanner McCullough, the setups for iRacing. Join the setups for iRacing Discord server for quality iRacing setups. And if you're interested in getting behind the wheel and joining the fun with PCA Sim Racing, you can learn how to get started by visiting simracing.pca.org and clicking on the 2-part series titled Getting Started in PCA Sim Racing at the bottom of the website. Once again, you can find all of that information on simracing.pca.org.
I tell you what, watching the battle for the lead right now, Gresham Wagner has been putting so much pressure on John Koch here. John has been having a little difficulty going through some lap traffic, but now that's cleared up. He's starting to pull a little bit of a gap, but Wagner has been running very consistent and even faster lap times than our race leader. So I say just given one more shot opportunity, and up the road from these 2 leaders is about 4 to 5 more cars that are all going to be put a lap down. This could be quite interesting for this battle for the lead.
Could be indeed, as Koch and Wagner have separated themselves from James Huth. Huth is about 3.7 seconds back of Wagner, about 4.3 back of the race lead. And then you've got all these cars that have come down pit road, and then Donald Binkley in the 33 is the first car ahead of the leaders on the racetrack. Maybe about 3 or 4 seconds up the road, and then you've got some good battles. You've got Colin Thomas right there, R.E. Moore Jr. right there, Patrick Gill right there, Chris Walsh a little bit further up the road. So this is all traffic that Koch and company are going to have to navigate. We've seen in some of the other races in this PCA SRS that navigating lap traffic hasn't always been the sort of shoe-in free pass that you think it would be.
Absolutely, it isn't. And also, with all the driving styles in the PCA Sim Racing series, you have to know what each driver is going to do, whether they're going to let you by, whether they're going to race you, even if they're lap down, as we see Jonathan Patterson there off track in the fence there on the inside of the carousel. Not entirely sure what happened there, but that's allowed Gresham Wagner to close back on John Koch. And the situation that they're about to experience with these two lapped cars up ahead fighting for position is probably one of the scariest for drivers to be in, as actually John Koch decides to nope out of that situation there and comes onto pit road saying, you know what, you're not getting my draft. You can have fun with the lapped cars. Goodbye. But with two battles emerging at once on track, that's probably one of the most dangerous situations to be in, and you really have to have trust in the lapped cars and yourself in order to make it through cleanly.
Also of note, while we have a moment here under the green flag, we'll let you note that Jonathan Shu is the leader in the Hard Charger Award in the iRacing Sims at the moment, as we take a look at the replay here and we see what happened to Matthew Kikas. But Shu currently up 13 spots from where he started in 26, currently runs in the 13th position. So nice race for Shu so far, as we see what happened with Matthew Kikas and how crazy that entrance to pit road was.
Yeah, Kikas was definitely dodging cars all over coming onto the entrance of pit road. Might have made slight contact with that car in front of him, but Waltman and several other cars were just trying to get onto pit road along with him. But now our former race leader, John Koch, has completed his first pit stop and is back out onto the racetrack. Now we'll have to wait and see what will happen with Gresham Wagner, as he is now on pit road along with Colin Thomas.
Now, Wagner and Thomas nose to tail as they come in pit road, although Thomas basically a lap down to Wagner and company. So Wagner will come in for service and be one of the last cars to pit amongst all of the drivers in this field. But Wagner comes in, stops for service. We'll wait and see where John Cook comes out. He currently is coming out of turn 11 at this point, right back onto the front straightaway. And we'll see where Wagner bleeds back into this race in comparison. And I suspect that Cook might extend his lead just a little bit on Wagner. Now, here comes Wagner out of pit road, and Cook is already rolling through turn one. It'll be very, very close, actually. And Thomas, I think, is going to stop Gresham Wagner up just a little bit. And that will open up the gap for John Cook just a bit as they go side by side through the S's. And the one spot on track where you really want to try and avoid going side by side, since it's the narrowest place on the racetrack by far. Michael Podolsek.
It's scary, yeah, but it's definitely doable. I've done it myself multiple times, and plenty of other drivers have done it too. It is definitely possible to go side by side and leave a lot of room for your fellow racers, as it's dangerous, but these cars have just enough grip to do it. You can go almost flat out side by side with each other, but it's very scary. And unfortunately, I think Gresham Wagner has played the strategy game, unfortunately, a tiny bit wrong there, because he got held up slightly by Colin Thomas, sorry. As right now, I think he's just on the fringes of the draft range. And John Koch, this is pretty much a dream opportunity for him. All he has is just one lapped car ahead of him. That is the number 7 of Matthew Mitchell in the iconic purple, pink, and turquoise car. But John Koch, he seems to have the greater raw speed we've seen in practice and qualifying. So if he can transfer that over to the race, if he has the confidence to go 110% for the final 34 minutes of this race, then he might be able to pull this off, because Gresham Wagner, again, he's got a lot of work to do if he wants to close down that lead, and we know he wants that very badly. So we're going to be seeing some very daring lines through the bus stop and all these other corners.
How about in the Department of Daring Opportunities? As I'll admit, I've never heard of a driver holding up himself as a move. But how about William Yu and Matthew Kikas running for 7th and 8th at the moment? You've got the 15 all over the rear bumper of the 07, and I suspect he's going to try and pull a move coming down the back straightaway. We'll see if he can get the run. They'll duck right behind the 07, then try and get the draft. Then they'll go side by side down the back straightaway, and we'll see who decides to outbreak who as they come to the bus stop. Not the first time Kikas has been side by side through here. They'll just blow right through it So didn't have the confidence to get on the brakes, and he, by default, will have to get the position back to William Yu, which he does, and then slides right back in line at the carousel, and he may try and get a decent run out of the carousel to set something up in 10 or 11, but missing that corner was a little bit unopportune for Kikas.
Chicas also had to worry about the 6 of Chris Walsh, who was backed up against one of the barriers as well. So he had to even slow down even more with that time penalty as well. So William Hughes, though, having a great run, working his way by Kikas once again as they come down the front straightaway. That he'll retain his 7th place position. But up the road from these drivers, there's another great battle going on. That's going to be between Liam Radzitas and Christopher Pies. This is a battle for 5th position as they're now coming out of the S's down the back straightaway. Radzitas gets a great run out of there. He's going to try to go to the outside, but Chris Pies throws the block on him as they go down into bus stop chicane. Radzitas backs off a little bit, knowing that there's some lap traffic in front of Christopher Pies. This could give the opportunity over to Liam Radzitas as he now tries to take a peek to the outside through the carousel. Now ducks in behind as they go by Trey's Drawhorn out of the carousel, the lap traffic, and set up the run to make the run through the short chute.
They clear the lap traffic of Drawhorn, who struggled in his pit stop, had a pit stop that was about a minute longer than the majority of the field, so that's why Drawhorn's back there. Jonathan Waltman is now your leader in the rookie class, and Drawhorn currently scored in 22nd, and somewhere in the ballpark of about maybe 20 or 30 seconds back of the class lead. Meanwhile, lap traffic's a little bit further up the road than you would think from the battle that we've been watching between Pies and Radzitas. It's R.E. Moore Jr. that is the first car ahead of this group, but still about 3 or 4 seconds ahead of this battle for P4. So it might be a little while before they actually catch up to R.E. Moore and run into the lap traffic proper. But more importantly, Radzitas is a little bit further back this lap than he was a lap ago, so I have to regroup and try and get back up to the rear bumper of the 13 and set up another move in the bus stop or potentially somewhere else on the racetrack instead.
But lap traffic also isn't the only other variable out there. Both of their cars are carrying a tiny bit of air damage, and these cars are pretty durable. They can take a few knocks, but any damage is going to slow you down and add some drag, as we see Christopher Pies work his way around R.E. Moore. And will Radzitas do the same? Yes, he will. So no real change there, but lap traffic is also another major variable, because if you're the leading car, you can view this as either a blessing or a curse, because if you're able to overtake the lapped car before the entry to like a tight corner or something, you might be able to either box the other driver in or have them be held up by the lapped car and you'll be able to escape away for a tiny bit. But it can also be a curse, because you can also get held up by the lapped car, and that will allow the driver behind you to potentially make a move around you and the lapped car. So it's going to be very interesting to see how well this battle is going to play out for the remaining 30 minutes, as we see both cars get somewhat loose as Chris Pies hits that inside curb on the second part of the S, and they're going to be going side by side into the bus stop. Who's going to blink first? I think they break to both equally, as Liam Radzitas, unfortunately, I think just overreacted, and there he goes. Around he goes, unfortunately just cracking under the pressure. Didn't judge the space he gave between him and the other car, and that's also something that you got to be really, really mindful of. Spatial awareness, because if you're driving on a single screen or with an ultra wide, you kind of have very big blind spots, so you have to mentally picture where the other cars are in comparison to you, and unfortunately that was just an overreaction by Liam Radzitas, and sometimes those mistakes happen, especially in cars this challenging to drive. You got a million variables you got to control.
I think part of it was giving too much space. I think the other part of it was that he just tried to get on the gas too quickly coming out of the bus stop and looped himself around. So a bit of a two-pronged punch for Radzitas that drops him back away from Chris Pies and drops him a little bit more solidly into 5th. It's about maybe 6 seconds from Pies to Radzitas, and then about another 6 from Radzitas to Kikas as we slide away from the long E sounds and into the long I sounds of our iRacing Midway Race Break, which as always is brought to you by iRacing, the world's leading online racing simulation. Developed from the beginning as a centralized racing and competition service, iRacing organizes, hosts, and officiates races on virtual tracks all around the world. iRacing is home to a wide variety of officially sanctioned series, with racing for the Australian Supercars, the Cars Tour, over on the Podium Esports Network, IndyCar, IMSA, NASCAR, the World of Outlaws, and more. John Cook is still your race leader in that 997 machine, doing a nice job of holding down the fort for the Chicagoland region. Out of the First Settlers region, it's Gresham Wagner in the 5, the Virginian, running P2 at the moment, as he has throughout a good chunk of the time in Series 3 of this PCA SRS. James Huth, tonight's local driver, the New Yorker out of the Hudson Champlain region of the PCA, runs in the 3rd position at the moment. And then we've got the first of our inductions, Christopher Pines in the number 6 machine, running in that 4th position. Liam Renzitis, your top-running Canadian tonight, out of the Upper Canada region of the PCA. He currently runs in the 5th spot. And then Matthew Kikas out of the Carolina region runs in 6th. Our low representative out of the Los Angeles region tonight, William Yu in the 07 machine, runs in 7th. Igor Shoiker runs in the 8th position as they stand. Lee Peterson, another one of our sections out of the Maverick region of the PCA, runs in 9th. And Chris Walsh in the 8 machine runs in the 10th position.
Tui Kang is currently sitting in the 11th position after starting in 18th. A great run for him tonight, followed by Jonathan Schum, one of our hard chargers. He started 26th, is now up to 12th position, so a great run as well. In the 13th position will be Joseph Stiffel, followed by Jonathan Waltman, as he is the last car on the lead lap. The first car one lap down will be Lynn Wilson in 15th, followed by Bruce Robinson in 16th position. In the 17th position right now is Colin Thomas, as he's struggling to regain and get back towards the front of the pack in the rookie class, followed by Matthew Mitchell in 18th. Patrick Gill is sitting in the 19th position, while Michael Knighton rounds out your top 20.
In 21st, unfortunately, after a pit strategy error, is Trey Drawhorn, and in P22 is Charlie Yao. Not too far behind is the number 772 of R.E. Moore Jr. in 23rd, with Michael Evans in P24. And just a tiny bit further back, currently fighting with Michael Evans for that 24th spot, we have Stephen Pruden in a P25. And a bit further back is Donald Binkley in P26. We've seen this trio go at it all night long. And Mark Hoffritz is in the number 254 Porsche 911 GT3 Cup cars in P27, with Jonathan Patterson in P28. Alex Hellier is in P29, with Faisal Yaman in P30. Andrew Elsom is in P31, with William Anderson, unfortunately your first car out of this race, in P32. And rounding out your field is Jacob Schum is the only other car on track at the moment in P32. And unfortunately out of this race is Carlos Lopez and James Bernard.
And that will conclude tonight's iRacing Midway Race Break. With over 80,000 drivers on the service and over 80 Blazer scan tracks and cars to choose from, iRacing is the original esports racing game. For more information, you can visit iRacing.com today. As I can also tell you that we have a 3-way battle for the Rannigan, the clean driver of the race award. Jonathan Schum, Chris Pines, Mike Knighton, the 3 that are in the hunt for that, and all just trying to make sure that they keep it together in one piece and make sure they don't run into too many walls, too much trouble, so that they can be in the hunt for an interview at the end of the evening. Cook still your leader, though. Wagner has managed to cut down that lead a good bit, down to 4/10 of a second. Jonathan Schum still leading the Hard Charger Award, by the way, now at 14th spot, where he started in the 12th spot. And then just looking back to the field, you've got William Yu, Igor Soiker in a pretty solid battle. Same can be said for Schum, and then Joseph Stiffel, who's right there as the leaders work their way through all this madness. And there's just good reason to just sort of sit in this battle and see what's happening as John Cook runs up behind lap traffic, and there's the opportunity that Gresham Wagner needed to get through. So Gresham Wagner takes over the race lead. Jonathan Schum really couldn't go anywhere. He was just running a racing line, and all of a sudden got right in the way of John Coke, who was just trying to come out of the corner and carry some speed, and ended up having to check out to make sure he didn't run over the 97. So no harm, no foul. But all of a sudden, Wagner now your race leader by about a car length or two over the 997, but maybe not for long, as I think the Huth agreement, I suppose, will come into effect, and Gresham Wagner has given the lead back to John Cook.
Great sportsmanship driving between Wagner and Cook as they come out of the bus stop chicane into the carousel. Wagner now wanting to try to pass him cleanly without making lap traffic the main factor for his pass now as they come down the back half of the straightaway towards the short chute, towards the final two corners. Gresham Wagner trying to build a little bit more speed out of there to try to final two corners. Into turn 10 they will go. Great run for him as he tries to close the gap as they come out of the final corner.
They continue to work their way out of turn 11 back down onto the front straightaway as we've got just over 20 minutes to go in tonight's Porsche Club of America Sim Racing Series event from Watkins, Glen. And we'll see if lap traffic ends up causing any more issues in this race. We'll see whether or not it ends up being a problem. But those two did a world of their own without question. James Youth is third on this racetrack, but is almost 12 seconds back of Wagner, almost 13 seconds back of John Cook. Meanwhile, Soiker and Kikas still in a good battle in 7th and 8th. Same can be said about Jonathan Schumer and Jonathan Waltman, who is still the rookie class leader. But credit to Colin Thomas, he's rebounded nicely. He's still got 12 seconds to pick up on Waltman if he wants the class lead in the rookie class. But given the way this race was going for him about 20 minutes ago, I think you can't complain too much with putting P2 in class at this time.
Absolutely. But we're going to be going back to your lead battle right now, as we're going to be seeing probably another moment of deja vu here as John Coe catches lap traffic at exactly the same point, and that's going to give Gresham Wagner probably the run he's going to need to get this position. Is he's going to try the outside line to turn 1? Is that going to work? Is he going to try to cut back? I don't think he's going to have the speed, and he's just going to slot into line, but he can still probably make a move at the exit of the S's here, as both of them are going to be very close together as they perfectly nail that line through the S's. Gresham getting a bit sideways there and had to take a slightly less optimal line as he's still got the run. He's going to look at the outside going into the bus stop. Is he going to make it work? No, he isn't. He's going to have to slot back into line, but credit to him for trying that. Again, anywhere can be the start of an overtaking opportunity, but then again, anywhere can end it just as easily, as we're probably going to be seeing yet another one of those fantastic moves again as we are closing into the final 21 minutes of this race. It's still anyone's game right now between John Coe and Gresham Wagner.
I think the key for Wagner, you saw him do it a little bit the last time by for the bus jump. You certainly will have the opportunity to make that move on the outside, but if you know you're not going to make it, best thing you can do is immediately abort the move and then adjust your line through the bus stop so that you run out of it as straight as you possibly can and just carry that speed into the entry of the carousel so you don't lose too much time, which is exactly what Wagner did, because that gives you the opportunity to stay right on the rear bumper of the car that you're chasing and make you the opportunity to make something happen on the next lap, which is something we're going to have to watch for, because here comes Wagner with the draft again, and Cook goes to the top side, so now Wagner will go to the inside and complete the pass, and Wagner will jump back up in front, and I'm not sure if he's going to feel like he needs to give it back this time. We saw the sportsmanship exhibited by Wagner a few laps ago when John Cook got caught up in the lap traffic, but I think at that point, Wagner just outright ran Cook down to take the race lead away. So Wagner back up to P1, and I think now it will be on John Cook to try and run the 5 back down.
And Coke needs to get a win here tonight in order to help keep possibly any hope of a championship run alive for him tonight. Remember, he had that wreck at Canadian to put him out of the running. Wow, Gresham Wagner already also has a win tonight and has finished consistently well throughout the remainder of the season. So in order for Coke to even have a shot at this championship, he needs to win tonight and hope that either Wagner has trouble tonight or next week at the season finale at Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta.
Valid points all around here as we wait to see what Cook can do. We saw the run that Wagner got down the back straightaway last time. This is certainly a place where Cook could run down that number 5 machine and gain a little bit of ground, but he needs to be closer than where he is right now. We'll see what kind of line he takes through the bus stop, but both pretty solid, both pretty flat lines through there, which is what you want. The more you arc it, the more time you end up losing through that corner. You really do want to try and just run the curves over as much as you can, take that as straight as possible, and then arc your way out of the carousel onto this long straightaway in between turns 9 and 10 to carry as much speed through there and make sure that you are quickly over into this 10-11 complex. And then 11, another one of the corners that you want to nail so that you get a lot of speed down the front straightaway across the start-finish line.
And unfortunately, Coke here seems to be in the losing position. You really want to have the lead in this final third of the race because, again, it's really hard to make a move here. So Coke's going to have to do everything he can, get back on the rear bumper of Gresham Wagner, make him crack under pressure, just appear big and scary in his mirrors, and do anything you possibly can to get around him. As we're seeing a slower car up ahead, that is Matthew Kikas after making an error. I'm not entirely sure where. I'm going to check to see exactly where that is, and it looks like that he ended up actually unfortunately failing to avoid the lapped car of Alex Hellier, and unfortunately I think that's his night over. He's just limping around the racetrack right now. So we're going to be going back to the battle between Gresham Wagner and John Coke at the moment, and right now Coke's in a suboptimal position for making a move right now. He lost about a tenth this last sector, and he's going to have to gain that back before time is up.
Yeah, nothing Kikas could have done on that Hellier incident. Hellier just lost it coming out of one, trying to get on the gas too early, and Kikas was within maybe a car length or two. Absolutely no time to check up. So Hellier on pit road with a lot of damage, and I suspect Kikas, you're right, probably done potentially for the edict. It's a significant amount of front end damage to the number 15, and a big shame for Kikas, who had been a top 5, top 10 car all night long until that incident. But it looks like that he's not going to end up with a top 5, top 10 finish with that kind of damage. So Kikas will park it. We'll see if he tries to get the car fixed up as best he can. But I think at this point that your attention, if you're in that 15 camp now, turns toward finishing out the season well at Road Atlanta next week.
Another driver who has some more issues was the 32 of Dewey Kang. Remember, he was running pretty well early on in the race, but now he is completely damaged. 4 laps down as well. He is having a rough night as the leaders were able to just go by him before they entered the carousel.
It's the leaders sorting their way through this field. Jonathan Schum, by the way, up to 11th, if you're curious. A very solid run for the 97, given that the 97 started in 26th, although that's not to say that the man rightly ahead of him isn't having a bad run either. Jonathan Waltman started in the 21st position and is up to 10th. So 11 spots for the number 35 machine, which in most cases would be in the ballpark of winning our Charger, but he's behind 2 drivers. Bruce Robinson started 27th and currently runs in 14th, and then Schum, your leader.
Oh, trouble in the S's! John Coke into the tire barrier after making contact with some lap traffic. This could end the night for John Coke and all hopes of a championship run.
How big is that? John Coke ever so slightly brushing alongside R.E. Moore Jr. in the 772 and gets loose in the absolute worst place on the racetrack to get loose. Right there, right over the access tunnel where the track narrows up on the racetrack, and now all of a sudden Gresham Wagner out in front by 9 seconds, maybe 10 seconds, just all sorts of room for Wagner to operate. And James Youth now coming back into this, but Wagner's biggest competition of the night, I'd say, effectively neutralized in the final 15 minutes of this race with that incident.
Unfortunately, nothing anybody could have done. They just caught lap traffic at a really bad spot. R.E. Moore Jr. already committed to the turn, so unfortunately there was nothing that Coke or Moore could have done. It was just an incident bound to happen there at the S's, and sometimes that's just the way that these races go. With the diversity of skill levels in this, sometimes those situations happen, but it looks like that John Coke, his car from that massive incident seems to be relatively okay. He's going to be very slow on the straights with all that aero damage, but I don't think it hit anything super important like steering or suspension or wheel damage, anything that would force him to come down pit road and take minutes of repairs, which would put him out of the race at this point. But unfortunately for Koch, chances of a win completely gone. And it's Gresham's race to lose now. He basically just has to not put it in the tire barriers, not put it into a lapped car, and just keep clean for the final 13 minutes of this race. And if he's going to be able to do that, he will be a two-time winner this season.
So now that Wagner's got some breathing room, we'll take a moment to remind you that the Porsche Club of America hosts over 3,500 events annually across North America. And between the 10 national events and thousands of regional events, there's a PCA event for every Porsche enthusiast. PCA hosts autocross events, concours d'elegance, driver's education classes, driving tours, social events, and tech sessions. For more information, you can visit pca.org/events. And for all that damage that Cook has on the 997, interestingly enough, he still has about 7 seconds on James Hughes, and those two combined have about 24 seconds on Chris Pies in the 6, who currently runs P4. So a lot of space between the Norse up the front. You have to slide a little bit further back to find some good battles. And the first place to start will be with the 97 and the 19, who are about to go side by side into the bus stop. And I think Jonathan Schum is not going to press all that much. He'll just let Colin Thomas go. And Thomas has been a man on a mission after getting involved a little bit earlier with William Anderson. Got spun around coming out of the carousel, was all the way back in the mid-20s, and now needs a pretty impressive final stint here in the final 10 minutes. He's got about 10.5 seconds to gain to get to Jonathan Waltman for the class lead. But again, after being stuck sideways on the racetrack for a solid 30 seconds the way he was earlier in this race, a very, very solid recovery job for the 19. Also of note, that should slide Waltman, I believe, into a tie with Bruce Robinson for the hard charge award.
Looks like that could be the case indeed for Jonathan Waltman, doing a great job. Started in 21st position, has moved all the way up to the 10th position. So a great effort for the number 35, who's still currently leading in the rookie class. He's just now coming into the bus stop chicane and still holding on to a great lead. One thing I want to give is a shout out to Leif Peterson and his recovery drive to get back into the top 10. I thought for sure after that spin, he could maybe pull something out to get back into the top 20, maybe a top 15. No, he's currently sitting in the 7th position right now, trying to hold off Igor Soiker as well as try to catch up to William Yu, who is just a second up the road from him. So that could be a battle and another gain to get him in the 6th position before the night is over with.
Absolutely. And Leif Peterson, we know how quick he is around Watkins Glen. We've seen Series 1 and Series 2, his impressive performances at this track. So this is definitely his track. And right now he is currently all over the back of William Yu as they have to check up beneath a lapped car of Alex Hellier. There he goes up the inside as Hellier gets a tiny bit loose, letting them both by. But there goes Leif Peterson in a league of his own compared to William Yu as he moves up into the 6th position. P5, though, is a long ways ahead. Liam Radzitis currently heading into turn 1, as Radzitis, speaking of Radzitis, unfortunately, I think that gap is staying at about 6 seconds, with them running about equal on pace as he gets a tiny bit loose going over the S's. But both of them about equal on pace for both Chris Pies and William Yu. So it's going to be a matter of time to see exactly how lap traffic is going to shake things down. But in this final 10 minutes, I don't think we're going to see them coming together again.
Yeah, it's Peterson and you who are having a good battle, but as Peterson begins to drive away from you, your next good battle should be between the 003 Joseph Stifel and Jonathan Waltman in the 35 machine. So lots of 3s, lots of 5s, lots of 0s in this 2-car pairing, and these two racing for 9th and 10th on the track.
Yeah, they're climbing up through the S's right now. Jonathan Waltman, your leader in the rookie class, sitting 10th overall. trying to find a way to close that gap on Joseph Stiffel as they come down the back straightaway, running towards the bus stop chicane. Waltman trying to get a little bit of a sniff of that draft before they enter the bus stop, hitting the braking zones right around that 100 to 50 marker, as now he gets a great exit off and is able to carry a bunch of speed before they hit to the carousel right there. He's now closed that gap to about a car length between the two drivers. As they come out of the carousel, Waltman can definitely have a shot through the final two corners to get into ninth.
Waltman with that big run, looking for the draft, coming down the straightaway in between turns 9 and 10, and it will all depend on how he sets up 10. Looks like he backed up his braking zone a little bit compared to Stiffel. We'll see how they get out of 11. Again, he backed it up a little bit, but ran the curve, I think, a little bit harder than he would have liked. I thought he might have been able to get the momentum out of the final corner, but I think that curve hop might have cost him any gains of momentum that he would have had, because he had a great line through there. And as they come down into turn 1, he gets on the brakes hard and nearly loses the rear end coming out of 1. Keeps it together in one piece, but Stiffel should get a really good run up this hill. Might be able to drive away from Waltman just a little bit.
Absolutely. These curbs are deadly for your momentum. These like very high black and white striped curbs. If you hit one of them, especially at the second to last in the final corners, that's going to kill your momentum, spin your tires. It's going to roast your tires, and at worst spin you, but it's also going to destroy any momentum and any opportunity of a pass. And again, opportunities for passes here, they come up often, but to complete them, they take so much work. As we're seeing Jonathan Waltman, I think he's braking relatively early in comparison to Joseph Stiffel as a bit of a safety margin to make sure that neither of them come together under braking. And unfortunately, I think it's time to let those safety measures loose, because of the final 7 minutes or so, and you gotta do everything you can right now to get past the guy in front of you. If you want to gain positions, now's the time to do it.
Not too much time left to go in tonight's race. Maybe 6-7 seconds left for these drivers, minutes left rather, for these drivers to try and make something happen. Apologies, and the time is skewed, but if you're Gresham Wagner, it doesn't really matter whether or not you've gotten 6 or 7 seconds or 6 or 7 minutes, because you've got 11 seconds of a lead on John Cook. Now, James Huth has not really been able to close the gap between the 12 and the 997 after Cook had his incident in the S's. Chris Prize a little bit further back, about 22 seconds back of Huth, so sort of in his own little bubble as it stands. And Stiffel now beginning to run away from Waltman just a little bit, as Waltman has found some of the lap traffic ahead of him.
Stiffel trying to find a way to get through the lap traffic as quickly as possible to hold off Jonathan Waltman as he is working his way through, is able to nicely, cleanly pass the 980 of Michael Evans before they enter the back half of the final two corners here. Into the braking zone they go. Waltman, I think, gets a little bit better run, but clips the curving just a tad as they come into turn 11 once more. There comes more lap traffic up in front of them. Who will get the better run, and who will be the bravest going into the 90?
Who will be the bravest? That's a very, very good question. Or who will be the one who can try and run down Gresham Wagner, or at least put up some good lap times? That might be the other good question. But we'll slide our attention a little bit further back. We've got a good battle for 13th, 14th, 15th, 16th. Bruce Robinson, Matthew Mitchell, Trey Jawhorn, Charlie Yao, all within about maybe 3 seconds of one another. And good battles abound here, especially with Mitchell and Jawhorn.
I definitely feel for Jawhorn. Unfortunately, I think he either took on too much fuel or took tires, which you're not supposed to do in this hour race. The tires can easily last the hour, and with taking tires, you lose 30 seconds that you definitely cannot gain on track, as we see Matthew Mitchell lock up a tiny bit there. Tire wear finally starting to take effect in this final 5 minutes of this race. But again, doing your homework is really, really important with fuel strategy, because you don't want to be taking on excess fuel. You want just enough to make it to the finish line. Like, an ideal fuel strategy would have your car spluttering across the line, barely making it on fuel. So normally that involves running test races, running practice laps in order to make your fuel strategy work, and also how much fuel you want to take on, because you really want to spend as little time in pit lane as possible. And if you spend even a second or two too long, that's a second or two you're going to have to make on track, and the harder you push, the more likely you are to make mistakes.
As Jonathan Waltman is closed back, to within 0.3 of a second on Joseph Stifel. That's 8th and 9th. And then Trey Jawhorn cleared Matthew Mitchell on the bus stop the last time by. So the 3.95 pushing on, doing a nice job climbing through the standings as Robinson comes down pit road. So that will give Jawhorn the opportunity to slide a little bit further up. And as Igor Sojker comes down pit road for service as well, that'll bring Jawhorn back up into the 12th position as Waltman and Stifel still racing nose to tail for 8th and 9th.
Yeah, that was going to be a good battle before we saw that driver Matthew come down pit road, but he is going to have a little bit of work to do, seeing if he can recover. And unfortunately, just a bad pit strategy call with getting not enough fuel in the car. Meanwhile, looking through the field, so far no one else has anything for Gresham Wagner as we're closing in on the under 5 minutes to go here at Watkins Glen.
Underneath the 4-minute to go mark, even about 3 minutes and 20 seconds left in tonight's race. Is everybody working the last maybe 2 or 3 laps of competition tonight at Watkins Glen. Some of these drivers celebrating the solid finishes they'll be able to come in with this evening. Others in this field will be looking towards road Atlanta. One final shot at redemption in the final race of 2019 for the Porsche Club of America Sim Racing Series coming up next Friday night. But all eyes here on Gresham Wagner for the final 2 minutes or so. With where he is on track, probably about 3 laps left here at the Glen before tonight's race is up. And we might be able to make that 2 now as he crosses the stripe.
I think Gresham Wagner is one of the few cars out there that has not suffered damage yet, so props to him for keeping that number 5 Super Sport car clean. He's done an exceptionally well job today. He was able to play his cards right, get into a really good situation where he was able to capitalize on the unfortunate situation of John Koch and take home this race win. And it's rewarded patience, consistency, and a bit of speed. And Gresham Wagner is going to be able to just cruise on home with this victory. All he has left, I think, is probably maybe about 1 or 2 more lapped cars. That is the number 33 of Donald Binkley and the number 17 of Igor Sojker. But Gresham Wagner, he's earned it. He has done everything he needs to in order to take home this win, and he is definitely showing his worth out there today.
Wagner with tons of speed, tons of pace, and no problems whatsoever in this race. Watching the clock here, looks like he's going to finish off the lap after this with about 10 seconds to go. So 2 laps to go, I think, for your race leader. So he crosses the line now, 1 minute 22. Yes, so should be about 10 seconds when he crosses the stripe next time. So 2 laps left in tonight's race for your leader and for everyone else for that matter. Stifel and Waltman still pretty close. Same can be said about William Yu and Colin Thomas, who has just driven the wheels off the 19 to get back up through the field. It looks like it's going to be all for naught to try and regain the lead in the rookie class. Looks like Waltman should waltz away to the victory there. But Charlie Yao and Trey Droll are still having a pretty good battle for 12th and 13th.
Yeah, great battle for all these drivers right here. The battle for 7th, of course, the battle for 9th, and then that battle for 11th as we're closing in on that final lap here at Watkins Glen International. And it's fairly safe to say if Gresham Wagner can bring it home here, I think he might be able to wrap up the championship here.
Wagner here is going to push on and see if he can knock out the last lap or so without any issues. As he'll come across the line and take the white flag in tonight's Porsche Club of America Sim Racing Series event from Watkins Glen International. Final lap for your race leader, Gresham Wagner.
As we're going to be going back to the battle for P7 and P8 with Joseph Stifel and Jonathan Waltman. Waltman is probably going to have one final try to overtake Joseph Stifel, and I think he's just too far back, so he's going to have to do everything he can to get just a ridiculously good run off of turn 1. And if he can't do that, then that might be a Joseph Stifel home free in P7, as they both got equally good runs out, so unfortunately he's going to be too far back. But we're going to be going back to your leader, who's just working his way out the carousel. Unfortunately, I think Charlie Yao with a couple of issues, as he is on the grass right now. But Gresham Wagner has done everything he needs to in order to take home this win. 2 corners to go as he makes his way around the second to last corner, perfectly hitting that apex, going almost all the way out to the outside. And as he comes through the final corner, Gresham Wagner is going to be your winner here at Watkins Glen. What an incredible drive.
Across the line and gets it done. Gresham Wagner, P1 tonight at Watkins Glen of the Porsche Club of America Sim Racing Series. Wagner gets the victory. Now waiting on Jonathan Waltman to try and come across the line and secure the victory in the rookie class, which he should be able to do with these. Comes out of turn 4, jumps in and jumps around and gets down the start-finish line with ease to take home the victory in the rookie class. So Waltman, your winner there. Also looking for a few more awards. Looks like Jonathan Shue, provided nothing crazy happens here, if he can get across the line, may well just be your winner of the Hard Charger Award. Currently in 11th after starting 26th. He's plus 15 rather. Don't think we've got anyone else that's in the ballpark. And it will indeed be Jonathan Schum. Jonathan Schum, and Waltman gave a pretty good account of himself too. We'll keep our eyes peeled on the 35. Just to see where that award goes, because there's good arguments to be made all around, but I think Schum might have it over Waltman, who I believe was up 13. Waltman was up 13. It looks like Schum was up 15. So the 97 gets the Hard Charger Award and the $50 bonus from our friends at AL Racing Simulators. You can visit alracingsims.com for more information on them. We thank them for their support of the Porsche Club of America Sim Racing Series. And Carlos Lopez, who interviewed tonight, didn't have the greatest of races, but I certainly has to be happy to see Schum walk away with the Hard Charger bonus.
What a race indeed with all these drivers. Great effort, great battles between all the entire field, especially in that rookie class. Congratulations to Waltman for winning that. And of course, Gresham Wagner with an outstanding run, staying out of trouble and making the right calls. And of course, I got to say, with the sportsmanship that he, along with John Koch, have been having all season long, it has been fantastic racing here with the PCA.
A lot of fun as we take a look at tonight's full field rundown and tell you where your favorite driver finished. Gresham Wagner comes home P1 tonight at Watkins Glen over John Koch. James Huth finished in the 3rd position this evening. Chris Pies came home in 4th. 5th belonged to the 13 of Liam Renzitzis. Leif Peterson finished in the 6th position. 7th belonged to the 003 of Justin Stiffel. Jonathan Waltman, your rookie class winner, finishes 8th overall. William Yu came home P9. Colin Thomas finished in 10th.
Finishing in 11th place will be Jonathan Schum, followed by Trace Drawhorn in 12th position. Matthew Mitchell will come home in the 13th position. Behind him, Igor Stoiker in 14th. 15th, 2 laps down, will be Patrick Gill, followed by Michael Knighton in 16th, with Bruce Robinson in 17th position, followed by Michael Evans in 18th. Jonathan Patterson will come home in the 19th position, with Charles Yao rounding out your top 20.
Stephen Pruden will finish in P21 with Mark Hoffritz in P22. R.E. Moore Jr. will be finishing in P23 with Donald Binkley finishing in 24th. Andrew Elsom will be finishing in P25 with Alex Hellier in 26th. Dewey Kang will be finishing in P27 with Matthew Kikis, unfortunately with a late race error, finishing in P28. Faisal Yaman will be finishing in P29, and Jacob Schum will be finishing in 30th. Lynn Wilson will finish 31st, with Chris Walsh finishing in 32nd. William Anderson will finish in 33rd, with Carlos Lopez finishing in 34th. And your final finisher for this race is James Bernard, unfortunately 44 laps down in P35.
So we'll work our way through our post-race interviews, and we'll go in a little bit different order tonight, waiting on your race winner to show up. So we'll start with, well, actually, there he is, right on time. I take that back. We'll slide to our race leader. We'll speak to Gresham Wagner in the number 5 machine, who certainly didn't have an easy go of it. You spent about 2/3 of this race chasing John Koch, and then got the lead, gave it back because you got it from lap traffic, and then managed to clear the lap traffic just in time to avoid that incident in the S's. Talk about that stretch right at the beginning, once you hit the lap traffic, to getting clear after John ran into trouble, and just what that was like from your perspective behind the wheel.
Yeah, I mean, that was definitely a tough race. I think that was the closest two people have been all series. As far as I'm aware, with my battles. So it was really hard. I think neither one of us really made any big mistakes through the pit stops or anything. And then yeah, I managed to slip through, and I was thinking I was going to be a hard 20 laps with him behind me, but he had a small mistake, and so I didn't want to see that. I wanted to have a good race, but at the same time, it was a lot of pressure lifted off my shoulders there at the end.
A lot of pressure lifted off your shoulders, and you get one back after finishing P2 at Coda 1 week ago. So you two have been going toe to toe to toe to toe to toe the whole way through this, and now one more battle left to settle it at Road Atlanta next week. Early expectations on what we should see there.
I think a lot of the same thing, frankly. I think both of us have really gotten a good feel for this car during the season. I think we're both really minimizing our mistakes at this point, so I think it's going to be a good race-long battle.
Should be a lot of fun to watch, I think. And before we let you go, as always, take a moment to send you thank yous, your shout outs, and let everyone know who makes it happen for you and the number 5 machine.
Well, as I always say, everyone that puts it on, from the officials to the broadcasters and everything. But again, that race I think was made a lot from the tough competition, because that's what makes it fun. So I was happy John was there and gave me a good run, because it definitely added a lot of fun to the race.
Gresser, congratulations to everybody with your team, the First Settlers region of the PCA, and all of us here at Podium Esports and your victory. We look forward to seeing you 1 week from tonight in Road Atlanta.
Thanks.
Chris Ryder comes home P1. P2 tonight belonged to John Koch on the 997 machine, and he is with Taylor Burris.
Here with John Koch coming home in second place. John, it was a really good race in the beginning, but just that small mistake with the lap traffic could have cost you the victory. Tell us how your race went and how in the world the car felt after that incident.
Yes, Taylor. It was well, the race started out really well. Qualified first, and Gresham and I think we kind of went back and forth, and we're pretty close in lap times, and unfortunately hit some lap traffic, and I spun out. But I was really looking forward to the end of the race, maybe a battle to the finish, and unfortunately that didn't happen. And tip my cap to Gresham for the win. It was well deserved, and congrats to him. And but yeah, sometimes that happens with lap traffic, and there's really nothing you can do about it. And as far as the car is a handful to drive without any damage, and with damage, it's wow, I can't believe I was able to bring it home. I'm very happy with that.
Now, as we go next week to Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta, how confident do you feel of trying anything to bring home the final win of the season?
It would be really nice to do that. And I don't really have any experience with, I think we're doing the short track next week. I don't think I've raced the short track, but I am comfortable with the normal layout, and I think I'm pretty confident to at least get a podium, and I'm hoping for another win to finish the season off.
Well, we look forward to seeing you at the next round, and thank you and congratulations on finishing in second place tonight after a hard.
Thanks, Taylor.
That was John Koch finishing in the second position, and Michael Polasek is with the hometown favorite, James Hughes, as he finished in third position.
Here I am with the Hudson Champlain region driver, a driver I've had the honor with going side by side with an entire lap in a few practice sessions. Tell me, James, how did your race go? You seem to have a pretty calm, collected race, which is very rare in this very chaotic series. So tell us, how did your race go from start to finish? As there we go, James Hughes is now finally in the booth with us. So because you didn't hear it again first time,
Sure.
I'm gonna ask it again. Sorry. You seem to have a pretty calm and collected race there, which is very rare in the chaotic Porsche Club of America Sim Racing Series 3. So tell us, how'd your race go from your end?
Well, I got to say, the first half of it, maybe first third of it, was just hanging out for dear life in back of the gentleman in front of me. John and Gresham were setting a furious pace. And as long as I had a draft, I could keep up to him. I gained on the bus stop every time, and I was equal. We could roll around for a while. But once we hit some traffic and I got separated by about 2 seconds or so, that was it. From that point on, I hit the pit stop, came back out, and was all alone and just drove the rest of it solo.
Unfortunately, with a draft track like this, that's how these races play out sometimes. But now we're heading back to a pretty technical track, and that is Road Atlanta, the short layout, which almost no series goes to in the official iRacing calendar. So tell us, how confident are you, and what do you have in store for us at Road Atlanta?
I will make it to that one. The short course is new to me. I've only done that in practice once or twice. I like Road Atlanta, but I got to say, because we're in the Peach State home, it's going to be interesting. I have a feeling those gentlemen are going to be pretty quick. Just have to try to stay with them.
Absolutely, with the Peach State drivers in full force, and I'm pretty sure the Peach State fans are all going to be out in full force as well. But we'd like to thank you for your time. Thank you for putting on an incredible show for us in P3, and we'll see you 1 week from now at Road Atlanta.
Fantastic. Thank you, gentlemen.
There's James Hughes, who comes from P3 in tonight's race. And from P3, we slide to the rookie class winner, Jonathan Waltman, who I think may have been keeping an eye or not on what Colin Thomas was up to, because Thomas was all over the board tonight. Your race far more consistent than the 19, though in fairness, he also didn't run into anybody the way he did. So those two having a lot of fun in the rookie class. But just take us through your race from your perspective.
It was pretty consistent, pretty solid. I stayed out of trouble, but I made a couple mistakes in pit road, actually. I overshot my pit stall and had to reverse a little bit, so that cost me a little bit of time. And then I asked for a certain amount of fuel and ended up getting a full tank. So that cost me some extra time in the pits and then some extra time of extra weight. So not completely ideal, but I think that only cost me maybe one spot overall.
Well, one spot overall, but yet another win in the rookie class for you, Jonathan. So how much excitement to come out of the gate here in Series 3 and just be so quick, so successful in that across the board this season.
Yeah, I'm pretty thrilled. Yeah, it's a lot of fun having the separate class, and instead of battling for somewhere mid-pack, it's exciting to have a separate battle for the front.
And quickly, as always, before we let you go, send you thank yous to shout-out sponsors and the people that make it happen for you.
Thank you guys for continuing to do an awesome job, PCA for putting it on, and everyone that watches these things.
Jonathan, congratulations on your victory in the rookie class tonight from all of us at Podium Esports, and we'll see you 1 week from tonight at Road Atlanta.
Looking forward to it. Thank you.
Jonathan Waltman, your rookie class leader. And we turn to another Jonathan now, who also picked up a share of the Aerodynamic Award, but we talked to him by virtue of his victory in the AL Racing Simulator's Hard Charger Award tonight. That went to Jonathan Shum, and he is with Taylor Burris.
Here with Jonathan Shum, who picked up 2 awards here tonight, the Clean Racing Award and the Hard Charger Award. Great effort for you, Jonathan. Tell us about your race.
Yeah, thank you very much. Well, first of all, for the Cup car, I never get the hang of qualifying, so it's a little bit embarrassing that my qualifying did not went so well. But and then for this track, we kind of know that the tires are going to start wearing out about halfway or maybe after 15, 20 laps. And then the key is to stay clean and make sure that you don't tag the wall or you don't get on the grass. So just basically keep it nice and steady, set a pace, and just keep to the pace. And after the pit stop, my tires start to go off a little bit, and I try to hang on to my position. But at the end, there were a couple of cars that were faster than me, and I just say like, well, I'm just not going to fight and just trying to get to the finish. And well, it's actually my best finish for the series, so I'm happy about that.
All right. Well, one more question before we let you go and celebrate these awards. Next week, Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta. Do you think you could probably pull out another twofer and pick up the Clean Race Award and the Hard Charger Award?
Yeah, well, I mean, I would certainly do my best. I mean, I want to thank the guys from Michelin also, because I'm a Michelin employee. and my car is a Michelin color, Michelin livery. So certainly want to do well at my home track.
All right. We look forward to seeing you at the next round at Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta. And congratulations on winning the Clean Racer Award and the Hard Charger Award.
Thank you.
Jonathan Schum, your hard charge of the evening. And one more man to talk to. It's Mike Nyden, who is the winner of tonight's Vereinigen Award. And he is with Michael Polisek.
Indeed, the other Clean Driver Award, we have Mike Nyden from one Michael to another. That seemed like a very chaotic race out at Watkins Glen with plenty of lap traffic to go through and plenty of battles all throughout the field. Tell us, how was it surviving the?
It wasn't chaos, Mike. It was a whole lot of fun. I mean, I wanted to keep my nose clean because, very honestly, I hope to be chatting with you afterward. I had a great time, and it was really fun racing tonight.
Indeed. Do you have any very memorable battles you had throughout that race?
You know, actually, I was very pleased to see Jonathan Schum get the award also, and the Hard Charger. Last week, it seems like if we're around each other, we touch. So I was happy to see him take advantage of the situation today. I was catching up. Who was it? Patrick Gill at the end. Just mostly it was free sailing and trying to make sure that the fast cars had a way by me that didn't impede them too much.
Absolutely. One of the cleanest drivers in the entire Porsche Club of America sim racing service. And now we're heading to probably one of your home tracks, if not, dare I say, your favorite track. That is Road Atlanta, the short layout. So tell us, how are you going to attack this monstrous beast of a track?
Well, you know, Michael, unlike you, I don't have that talent level, and I just hold on. At Road Atlanta, I think it's another really fun track. These cars should just be a whole lot of fun to drive there, and I hope it's entertaining for the people who are watching the broadcast. I know I look forward to watching the replay, and I think you guys are doing a great job.
Well, we thank you for driving in the Porsche Club of America Sim Racing Service, picking up your Clean Racer Award. And last but not least, is there anybody you'd like to thank for ending up getting this 0X award?
Yeah, there is. I'd like to first. I'd like to thank sponsors BENA, our company, my wife Trudy for the support that she offers me, and as we're heading into Veterans Day, I think a lot of people have noticed I carry their stars and stripes on my car, and it's particularly important this weekend. I want to say thanks to all the veterans, all the people who are in our military, for making our country safe and allowing us to do the kinds of things that we get to do tonight. Thanks, everybody.
Well, we'd like to thank you again, Michael Nyden, for your great drive today, ending up with 0 instant points here at Watkins Glen.
Thanks, guys.
Mike Nyden, your Vereinigen of this evening, and we'll turn right back to Michael Polisek because we got some final thoughts to take from you on tonight's race.
Well, what can I say except one word to describe this race, and that is chaos. An unfortunate situation put John Koch out of the winning position, and he was able to secure P2 after great driving, keeping that damaged car on the road. But sometimes races like that happen, and it's great to see Gresham Wagner take home another win, staying calm and composed with such a loose car under him.
Taylor Verse, the likes of your final thoughts.
Well, of course, we saw some great racing action all throughout the entire field. Unfortunate for John Koch, as he was not able to really put up a final last battle between him and Gresham Wagner for that race win, which would have been amazing. But it shows that mistakes can be made anywhere throughout this entire circuit, and just shows the difficulty of passing as well as managing lap traffic.
All valid points here. Lap traffic, lap traffic, lap traffic, lap traffic. That to me says so much about tonight. It shaped so much of tonight's race, and it is a skill. I think it's one of those things that a lot of drivers take for granted that, you know, if you're fast, you can get around lap traffic, no problem. It's not all that complicated. They should be slower than you. They should be easy, so on and so forth. It's not. It is a skill, and being able to hit the lap traffic in the right spots can be very, very crucial at times, as John Cook unfortunately got a very, very harsh reminder of in this race. He might have been in victory lane if not for that incident with R.E. Moore Jr., but as it stands, we'll go to Road Atlanta with John Cook and the chip on his shoulder, and Gresham Wagner trying to hold him off and get 2 victories in a row to close out the season. A few events coming up with all of us at Podium Esports before we get back to the PCA SRS. Sunday night, it's the Stock Car Challenge Series powered by iRacing iFlag from Monza. We take the Class A stock cars to Italy to race at the famous road course just about 30 minutes north of Center City, Milan, without the first chicane, too. So they'll carry a ton of speed down into that first corner. We'll get the green flag on our coverage this Sunday night, November 10th at 8:30 p.m. Eastern, and then next Tuesday night on the iRacing Facebook page, the iRacing Twitch channel, and the iRacing Esports Network. It is our coverage of the NASCAR iRacing Pro Series Round 4 from Dover International Speedway. The Monster Mile home to the chase as we see which 20 drivers will advance into the 2020 eNASCAR iRacing Series. Our broadcast will begin at 8:45 p.m. Eastern this Tuesday night, November 12th. You'll be able to find that on all of iRacing's standard streaming channels. And then we're back here on the iRacing Esports Network for the grand finale to the PCA SRS 2019 season, the short course at Road Atlanta next Friday night, November 15th. Broadcast will start at 9:15 p.m. Eastern Time, and we'll look forward to one last race in the year for the PCA SRS to send them off well before we start looking towards 2020. So, for everyone at Podium Esports, for DJ Lyon, Gary Saxton, John Theodore, for tonight's producers, Cisco Scaramuza, and for my colleagues in the booth, Taylor Burris and Michael Polisek, I am James Pike, the voice of Podium Esports. Thank you so much for watching tonight's broadcast of the Porsche Club of America Sim Racing Series. We look forward to seeing you for the season finale next Friday night from Road Atlanta.